This is Antarctica. Nearly 6 million square miles of ice-covered wasteland. Less than 1/3 of this great continent has been explored. In Antarctica, scientists hope to find the answers to many questions, which will unlock secrets of the universe.
Our story begins with the 1938 secret German expeditionary voyage to Antarctica. The Nazi government had a tremendous interest in exploring and exploiting the continent, claiming the territory of New Schwabenland and securing a naval base there. Along with a subglacial U-boat supply outpost, a secret advanced research facility was established inland, referred to as Station 2. Europe came to a close in the spring of 1945. The Americans had secret teams scouring the former Reich for advanced programs, the jet and rocket technology, that were years ahead of the Allies. Known as Operation Paperclip, it achieved some notoriety as it was credited with bringing Orbit, von Braun, and other scientists and V-2 rocket technology back to the US. However, until now, Paperclip's greatest intelligence coup has never been revealed, that is the discovery of the existence of Station 211. All communication channels with the station were severed in the last days of the war, so in the fall of 1946 the US mounted a massive operation known publicly as High Jump, a scientific research mission to the South Pole led by the famous Admiral Byrd. High Jump, of course, was simply a cover for Project Dandelion, the mission to recover and study whatever technology or research was to be found. Since nothing was known of the garrison at the station, a full military expedition was prepared. The carrier Philippines Sea embarked with 6 Navy ski-equipped rocket-powered R-4D assault planes, specially trained Arctic troops, equipment, scientists and interpreters. Station 211 was found to be apparently abandoned, but well equipped with a large underground hangar, machine and design shops and a biochemistry lab. The offices were left in perfect order, many designs for various radical aircraft still on desks. Of particular interest were 2 prototype disc-shaped flying craft under construction, one type of them nearly complete. More significant was the discovery made in the bio lab, as the scientists had been working on a subatomic biochemical oxygen additive for high-altitude saucer and rocket plane pilots. Referred to as Composition 3, the researchers found that it had significant unintended fatal side effects. Cumulative exposure rendered the unfortunate test subjects into brainless undead zombies. Further accidents and experiments determined that the zombified could then be somewhat controlled remotely using signals at the unbelievably high frequency of 5 gigacycles. As more researchers were needed, the base was greatly expanded with housing and new laboratories, and the airstrip lengthened to accommodate large transport planes. Continuing the work that had been left behind, the first saucer was finished and made ready for a test flight in late June 1947. It is believed that the crew intended to fly back to the most secure facility in the US at the time, the Strategic Air Command's Roswell Army Air Force Base in New Mexico, where the entirety of the nation's fledgling atomic forces were kept. It is likely that the saucer was seen by private pilot Kenneth Arnold, flying near Mount Rainier in Washington on the afternoon of June 24, indicating that the craft took a circumpolar flight over the North Pole before attempting to land at Roswell. The subsequent crash and the publicity that the incident created nearly exposed Dandelion. However, the test pilots' bodies, distorted by gravitic radiation from the ship's leaky reactor, became the source for rumors that the saucer was crewed by aliens from outer space, a convenient distraction away from the facts. Meanwhile, Byrd was back in D.C. giving his confidential report on Station 211 to Secretary of Defense Forrestal in person. In a supplemental report submitted by private analysts, proposals for uses of the new technology allegedly included creating an unstoppable army of radio-controlled undead super soldiers, atomic zombie kamikaze bomber squadrons, and developing gravitic-directed atomic ray weapons. These ideas so horrified Forrestal to the point that he became despondent and led to his eventual apparent suicide in 1949. It is likely that Forrestal was seen as a security risk and was simply defenestrated lest he expose Project Dandelion to the public. Despite its massive and continual expansion, work at Station 211 required even more real estate, and in the early 1950s, a second laboratory was set up in the South Central Pacific, where the Atomic Energy Commission had already been conducting nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll in the Marshall Islands since 1946. Called Top Hat, the massive complex included Composition Q and handwavium fuel manufacturing, zombie control antennas, and a landing pad off the island of Namu. March 1, 1954, a full-scale test of the larger second-type saucer and its handwavium-powered flat Earth gravitic drive was scheduled, and for the first time the ship was to travel from Antarctica through the Earth and re-materialize in the Pacific. What exactly happened at 6:15 a.m. can only be guessed at, as there was the largest explosion ever recorded at the time, an estimated 15 megatons. It is theorized that the saucer began the journey successfully, but the gravitic reactor was accidentally or intentionally misaligned, imploding an estimated 5 to 9 cubic miles of Antarctica and bringing it along with the ship to Namu, vaporizing upon contact with the atmosphere. If indeed sabotage was the case, they were wildly successful, as the event known as Castle Bravo not only destroyed the entire Dandelion facility and its personnel in the Pacific, but all contact was simultaneously lost with Station 211. The results of this tragic event at the atoll are well known, at least by other names. Q fallout and contamination, as well as a stew of other exotic atomic elements that could only have come from 211, were referred to as generic radiation to the unfortunate surviving AEC scientists, the residents of the nearby atolls, and the crew of the Japanese fishing vessel Lucky Dragon. The international outcry again threatened to expose Dandelion, but the fear of the alleged runaway nuclear test was enough to distract the world from asking too many questions. Several rescue attempts were made out to Station 211, all were turned back by bad weather or were never heard from again. Finally, in the fall of 1956, Operation Deep Freeze, with Admiral Byrd again in command, was approved, and a large expedition task force was entrusted with the re-establishment of Station 211 and recovery of its secrets. After an arduous journey, Byrd and his advance party finally arrived at the proper coordinates in the Antarctic wastes, only to find nothing but empty land, not one bit of evidence that 211 had ever existed, as if it had been swallowed by the frozen desert. Admiral Byrd returned to the U.S. a bitter man, having lost friends and colleagues to mysterious circumstances in the wilds of Antarctica. He appeared on television and warned the public that there was a lot more going on at the South Pole than was commonly known, and died at home soon thereafter, likely another security risk eliminated. The Department of Defense, having all the research and data obtained by Dandelion obliterated in the twin disasters, destroyed all references to the project from their records, although it is possible that wreckage salvaged from Roswell was stored at Area 51 in Nevada. Unfortunately, the story of flying discs and zombies does not end here, as from the early 1950s, reports and sightings of zombies and saucers have only intensified, including several official investigations by the Air Force itself. The skies are now filled with commercial airline contrails, which are indistinguishable from chemtrails that could easily contain composition Q. We have noted that since the events of March 1954 there has been increased saucer zombie activity originating from the north. Until we have more information, we must assume that somehow zombified former members of Station 211 are operating the saucers and are using Hollow Earth to travel from Antarctica to the North Pole, as some crackpots have suggested. A more likely scenario is that they have perfected the flat Earth gravitic drive and are able to drop beneath the flattened planet and then travel to the edge of the North Pole and pop up on any bearing of their choosing. This explanation is somewhat controversial, as many flat Earth theorists mistakenly put the North Pole as the center of the Earth rather than Antarctica. Whatever method they use, one has to simply look at the unprecedented rise of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere over the last 50 years to see that some sort of plan for total zombification of the globe is in effect, not to mention the more recent worldwide implementation of 5 GHz communications, the exact frequency needed for zombie control. In summation, there is still very little we know about who is behind the current zombie saucer menace, or how we can stop it. There is no known cure for composition Q syndrome even as infections continue to grow, and it is nearly impossible to predict where they will strike next. The last confirmed saucer sighting was in 2015, over the Atlantic and heading towards Washington, D.C., as it appears at present that their aims may be political. All the information we do have about Project Dandelion comes from one individual, a Dr. Edward F. Willett, economist, who served as a civilian top assistant to Forrestal during the war and later in life became a secret confidant. It was Willett that Forrestal entrusted with a leather briefcase full of Project Dandelion reports less than 48 hours before Forrestal's untimely death. Willett took the secret with him when he died in the early 1990s, the briefcase discovered among his possessions by his maternal grandson, current acting Z Division General Bugout Bob. This aspect in no way has influenced the facts of this investigation. We here at Section I Intelligence understand that the results are inconclusive, and we will continue to investigate until we fully understand the current zombie saucer epidemic. This concludes this report.